Congressman Mark Pocan is with us. It's our Middays with Mark, a regular feature here on the program. Congressman Pocan is the current member and chair emeritus of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. He's the co-founder and co-chair of the Labor Caucus. He's the chair of the Congressional Equality Caucus. He represents the 2nd District of Wisconsin in the U.S. House of Representatives. Pocan.house.gov is his website. You can tweet him at Rep. Mark Pocan. And Congressman, welcome back to the program. I'm wondering your thoughts on the possibility or probability, apparently, of a government shutdown and the GOP clown show that's going on right now.
Well, hey, thanks for having me, Tom. Honestly, what I'm going to tell you is pure speculation because none of us really know. I think it would be easier to understand alien behavior if they landed on the planet than the current House Republican majority in the House. A colleague of mine who I work well with, a Republican from the Appropriations Committee, told me he's a very optimistic guy, and he said, I'm in the 20% of my caucus that thinks we won't have a shutdown, which told me 80% of their caucus does, which I think probably tells me everything. I just saw Jake Sherman from Punchbowl just tweeted out that it looks like we're in this weekend, which I assume because Kevin McCarthy can't get his people on board. And another Republican I talked to from my home state told me part of their problem is, Scalise is out for cancer treatments, and Luna just had a baby, and someone else has a broken hip, and they're missing some members that make it also harder when you have, a few of the folks in their caucus unwilling to cooperate. So all of that put together, I got to assume, the best thing they could probably do if they were lucky is put together something that makes extremists happy, that's not real, just to send it to the Senate so the Senate could send back something reasonable, because the Senate Republicans and Senate Democrats have been working in a reasonable, realistic way. The problem is to put something that crazy together, it means their moderates, their people in swing districts, have to be able to vote for it to send it out. And I think that's the dilemma that Kevin McCarthy's in, on top of the fact that he doesn't really exhibit a huge amount of leadership skills to get things done. So I would have to, if I was a betting person at the Vegas counter right now, I would guess my odds are probably about 5-1 on a shutdown.
Yeah. What do you think the chances are that this will play out the way it did with the debt ceiling, where basically Democrats will come in and save Kevin McCarthy's, behind here? I understand the Problem Solvers Caucus is meeting as we speak.
Yeah, and I raised that very question to Hakeem a couple days ago, and right now everyone is still solid in the caucus. The reality of this versus the debt ceiling was an agreement with the White House, right, and Congress, and then there was people arguing that President didn't, respond quick enough and lay out to the American people what was really going on. In this case, the president gave us a budget. He's kind of completely out of this, and the Senate has passed all of their appropriation bills at worst 24-4, some were even 28-0 in committee, and they've been passing them on the floor with 90 plus votes. It's only the House Republicans that can't get this done. So I do think there's a little different scenario than what happened during the debt ceiling. However, I can also tell you people just blame Congress right now. They're not necessarily understanding that it's Kevin McCarthy who won't get Democratic votes because he can't, because he gave that away when he became Speaker. He has to have votes within his own caucus to send something out, which again is purely a Republican on Republican violence, right? And I think our job is to let people know we're willing to pass a clean continuing resolution because we understand we need more time, and that's the responsible thing to do. It's just Kevin McCarthy right now isn't proposing that.
Was that Denny Hastert, or was it Paul Ryan who came up with that rule that if legislation doesn't pass with a majority of Republicans in the House, then it won't be brought to the floor?
Well, but it's not even that. The new rule is they can't even get, it's not even, they have to have exclusively Republican votes to pass it. Now, I think, yes, you're right, it did come up once previously, but this is a little more extreme version because Kevin McCarthy literally just has to send something out so the Senate can send something to us. We have to initiate this, again, from all the conversations I've had this week, which really does put the onus on him. And he wants to do, and I say the right thing with my fingers flying for radio, not a great way to describe things. Right. But the problem is, he won't stand up to the few problem people he has. I mean, he was only a few votes short of getting this done. If he could just put some of his more extreme members, because there's probably 40 that fall in this camp, but the 5 that didn't vote with him, if he could just get them to come on board and do that, we would be fine. The problem is they're unrealistic. They want border funding. They want to cut funding beyond the agreement that they negotiated. That's the part that we got to mention more and more is during the debt ceiling debate, the agreement that the Republicans negotiated was where we should be right now, so that this would be an easy process. And they're going against their own negotiating. They just need to stick with the agreement that they asked for and made, and we'd be fine. And again, it's part of why I think we just have to keep pointing that out, that this is completely avoidable, and it's completely created by House Republicans.
Yeah, which raises one last question here. This paper was found in the bathroom in the House, apparently on a baby changing table. Apparently it's Matt Gaetz's call for Kevin McCarthy, a motion to vacate the chair. In other words, to kick out Kevin McCarthy. What's the deal here? What's going on?
Honestly, knowing Matt Gaetz, he could have, dressed like a woman and went to the bathroom and put it there. Matt Gaetz is an interesting colleague. I'll leave it at that, since we're in public conversation. But he loves the attention he gets off of all of this. Again, if he did somehow get a motion to vacate Kevin McCarthy, I think Kevin McCarthy has said, and we believe he still has the votes to be speaker again. So it's not like a huge hammer over his head. It's more that if they just won't vote for something on the floor and he doesn't break his agreement with them by getting Democratic votes, it's just he's in a tough spot. And because he hasn't had the leadership skills to make them do the right thing, the country's in a tough spot.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right. Anything else you want to say before we start picking up phone calls?
No, I think that's pretty much our mornings, afternoons, and evenings at this point. Just figuring this out, so I think you're there.
I get it. Okay, Mary in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You are on the air with Representative Mark Pocan.
Good morning, Representative. Thank you. I am originally from Green Bay, so I'm appreciative of your state. But I've lived in Minneapolis for years. I'm an elderly person, and I live in HUD-subsidized elderly housing, and right now, the waiting lists for getting into any of this type of housing are huge. I live in an owned building that the management company, goes on. They have changed management styles. They're brutal. They're neglecting us. And I am so poor I can't do anything. And I really, we need that formula calculated by a different formula. How can we get legislation to bring us at least an inch above poverty? They go by a formula that's just so outdated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, Mary, thank you for calling. First and foremost, contact your member of the House and Senate and express this, because one, hopefully they can maybe make some calls and deal with the management for your most direct problem you have. But also, this issue is much bigger, and not just about senior housing either. Housing is in a crisis in this country right now, and we're not ready for it. We don't have enough lower income housing, affordable housing that's happening. We have phenomena like hedge funds buying literally blocks worth of affordable housing, and making rents and the cost of housing skyrocket. In fact, I believe the increases in housing is 3 times the increase in pay in the last several years, because of things like the hedge funds and others coming in there. And we don't have adequate resources going towards addressing affordable housing. Every new development should have a certain percent that's affordable housing, and that would be, I think, a really good plan we need to do. It's a big issue, but immediately call your member of the House and the Senate, and they can maybe help with your most immediate problem.